Well, President Obama is calling on Congress to pass a one-year extension on some of the Bush-era tax cuts. Those cuts are set to expire at the end of this year. We've been telling you about it for a while here, so-called Taxmageddon. And the president wants them continued, but only for those making less than $250,000 a year, as I raise my hand, big time. The president's announcement comes just 4 months before the general election and just days after a very disappointing jobs report that was released last week. Here to discuss and to give us his point of view is financial expert and portfolio manager and so forth, all-around smart guy from Street Talk Advisors and host of Street Talk Live, Lance Roberts. Okay, so...
You're way too kind, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Now, you mentioned, you know, we've been talking about this kicking the can down the road. This is a proposed one-year extension, not permanent, and only for those making less than $250,000 a year. So explain to me, Lance, me as a working man, why shouldn't I be in favor of this?
Well, because as a working man making less than $250,000 a year, it sounds like a good thing. The problem is that who employs you? It's the people that are generally making more than $250,000 a year.
That's true.
So once you begin to impact those individuals with higher tax rates, they have to make some decisions about how to protect their bottom line profit margin. So, because look, that's why people are in business, right? There's an evil word that goes along with business. It's called profit. That's why they're in business to start with. So, you know, we can't fault them for wanting to make a profit. And in order to protect that profit, when you impact them with higher tax rates, they begin to look at their most costly expense, which is payroll and benefits.
Now, playing devil's advocate here, I would say that a lot of people out there watching would say, tough. You know, let you deal with lower profits and leave me alone.
Well, it sounds fine on the surface, and that's the idea. It's like $250,000 unless, you know, you deal with it, you're the big guy, you're making all the money.
Right.
The problem is those individuals already pay 80% of the taxes. So again, it's not the fact that you're going to pay less taxes, they're going to pay more tax. But here's the reality of it in terms of creating economic revenue, right? Okay, what is it that Obama's trying to do? He's trying to create more tax revenue so we can pay down our deficit. Well, if you just take a look at the recent increases in tax revenue over the last couple of years, we've had some employment growth. Guess what? Because we've had more employment growth over the last couple of years, although weak, we have more tax revenue. So really, if you want to increase your tax revenue, increase employment.
Now, I was actually, when I was preparing for the interview, I was looking at some of the questions that were set up, and it made me think along these lines. You know, a lot of municipal governments, like the city of Houston, state, you know, Texas, and a lot of other municipalities around the country, they're short on cash because they're not getting property tax revenue, because that's based on the price of homes, and the price of homes has gone down. So it's sort of the same concept, isn't it? I mean, if you have lower employment, you're not going to have as many people paying into the system. You raise taxes to try and raise more revenue, and in essence, you're lowering employment, and it's a vicious cycle.
It is. And not only do you lower the level of employment, but by keeping a large and available labor pool, you suppress wages. Lower wages creates lower tax revenue as well. And this is really the point of it all. Whether no matter what side of the fence you're on, whether you are for it or against it, really doesn't matter. What we're talking about is what is economically smart. What's economically smart is creating more jobs. You create more jobs, you create more revenue. You create more revenue, you create more economic growth. It's a very close cycle that all works together. The problem is that the employment function is broken. We've got to fix the employment side, and you don't do that by increasing taxes.
Are there ways, though, that the government can increase employment, you know, like with some sort of a stimulus, or, you know, building new roads or bridges or things like that?
That, my friend, is the question. And yes, should we be doing some deficit spending in order to fix the economy? Absolutely. The problem, though, is that the deficit spending we've been doing has a zero rate of return. Extending unemployment benefits, welfare, food stamps, these do not create economic growth. But when you start doing deficit spending in a manner that creates a profitable rate of return, i.e. building a road, building a bridge, building a toll road, building a railway, that has an economic benefit to it, you will create jobs and you'll create growth. And yes, that can be done. That's a Marshall Plan like we saw back earlier in the last century, and a Marshall Plan will work if it's done correctly.
They're smart, though, right? I mean, the people that we elect to office, they're smart. I mean, they can't all be dumb. Don't they know that?
Well, the problem is that doing that requires some fortitude, and it requires some patience, because what you start today is not going to result in an immediate effect. So what's done in office continually, and look, this is not the first time we've extended the Bush tax cuts. This will be the second time.
Right.
Because each time they come up, the most easy thing to do is just to extend what's already in place to keep everybody happy so I can get the votes.
Right.
Instead of doing the right thing, which requires some patience and some fortitude and some backbone, you get that done and start doing the right things, you're going to start to turn the economy around.
Well, you could hear more good stuff like this on 700 KSEV at 6 p.m. With Street Talk Live featuring Lance Roberts. Thanks so much, and hopefully some of the politicians are watching and maybe they'll learn something. I don't know.
We can always hope.
Yeah, what do you think, Chris?
I think you guys are really smart. That was very impressive. Two well-read individuals.